Howdy, y'all. Thanks for tuning in and checking these videos out. I'm no expert, but I'm pretty good at this stuff. We're going to be listening to a young lady named Shawan Rice. It's files from the 2024 New Orleans Jazz Fest I've made available to you to do this project together. Um, we are going to just look at some basics. This is not all inclusive by any means. It's how to make a solid live mix and get it out. We don't always have the luxury of time in doing live recordings at Jazz Fest. With that said, here we go, and let's enjoy some Shawan. And see you in the videos. Alright, howdy. I want to talk about something that's rather monk music or live recording specific. And that is the way gains change during shows because, well, recordists are turning the knobs, which actually we kind of want them to. We've asked them to, but this is what we deal with. So, if you look at this show just laid out, you'll see that the gain of the kick drum in is louder here than it is here. It got turned down somewhere around here. Let's look at the snare top. Wow, I just noticed that it's real hot, so I turned it down. All of them do it. Everybody does it. I'm not trying to point fingers in any way. Um, it can also happen by natural dynamics, of course, but some of it's very obvious, and that's what we have to look for when we first start chopping these things up. One of the things that caught my eye in this was how this overhead cut down rather quickly into the set, which is great. That's what the recordist is supposed to do, but we have to deal with it. So, what I do generally to start a show, and this is something that Andy and I have done for years, is open it up, go in, get your cut tool, which is up here, or it's the number 3 on your numeric pad, 1 being the pointer. If I hit the number 3, you'll see it goes to the cutter, the razor, whatever. And that was, we used to cut tape, but. So, here we are. We see where the knob's getting turned down right here. I'm going to go in, I'm going to cut it. I'm going to expand back out the W. W and E, kids, learn to use it. That's the expansion. Now I go in here and look up. All right, so I have this section that's obvious. Now, make sure you have the 1 button. And I'm just going to turn that down to be consistent with the rest of the track, or as consistent as I can make it. We may have to make adjustments. Like now, this is louder than over here, so I can do this again, and I can do this and move these exponentially. So at least now the track is relatively consistent gain-wise across the whole show. We could do that with each and every track. I'll do it real quick here with the kick, in and out. Now, again, some of this can be artist related, without a doubt. And again, I am not pointing fingers. This is what they're supposed to do on stage. Let's make the snare top more consistent. Now, we have to realize that any mix, compression, blah, 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 any gain-based decisions have been made on those earlier volumes. I'm actually going to turn this one up just a hair. So anyway, there you go. If we see it in a bass track, this bass track didn't get touched, her guitar track didn't get touched, and the rest of it looks really good. So, this is our everyday job. Get used to it. It's the way you should start every project with a live mix. Okay, thanks, guys. All right, man. I hooked up a microphone so I can talk to you. This is what it should basically look like. First things first, start, end. You get that by clicking up here and getting your marker. And then you just drag them to where you want them. If I want to zoom in, you have this and you have this. You can also zoom in using the W and the E key. E is expand, W is make it smaller. Alright, if I click down on the bottom right mix, it brings up your mix window. You can see how you can insert effects. One of the things that I really like is the gain and phase. This is called an input control and is accessed with the little wrench. Yours may also have the keep effects channels to the right and keep bus channels to the right boxes clicked. Unclick those. That is lesson 1. Oh, wait. To color, click on the bottom of the channel. The bottom right corner will bring up the colors, and if you click right on the word, you can change the word. That's lesson 1. Alrighty, one of the things that I really like about Studio One is the mixer flexibility. If I want to change how many sends I put in, I can drag this whole bar up and down. I can drag this up and down, blah, blah, blah. Now, if I want to put in inserts, you can also put in like 4 at a time. Just highlight the tracks, go to your go to your equalizer, whatever, your compressor. Also, to make subgroups, let's say I want to make, this is a subgroup already. What you do is highlight the tracks you want to go in, right click, and you'll see add bus, and it drops it right in there. Very key. Also, if I set up an effect, it's going to insert the effect return right beside my highlighted channel. So if I wanted to put add effect channel, you'll notice it put it right here. Better than Logic, which throws it to the far right, and then you got to battle it. Control Z is undo everything, just like in anything Mac. Also very important. Alrighty. Now, we'll look at bass because we like to talk about time alignment. You can time align like sample delay right from the channel. If I go up and click I for inspector, it brings up the channel, and you'll see right here is delay, and I delayed this bass 16 milliseconds. All right, that is lesson 2. All right, couple things here. To set up a loop, it's up on the top, just like Logic. You drag the area, and then you turn on your loop. This, I want to solo up her vocal channel. Bad luck won't stray for long indeed. Refute your lessons, rebuke your knees. Trouble follows. Okay, on this, what I wanted to show you was the dynamic EQ available. So if you take your high end, let's just put this back to normal, and she has that super high end thing. Well, you can't tell her nothing. So first I'm gonna shelf that a little bit. Now I'm gonna set this frequency. I'm gonna click the D to make it a dynamic EQ, and you'll notice it brings up threshold and range. Don't you know the cypress can't grow in the house? That's a little excessive, obviously. So dynamic EQ built in, baby. Alright, one of the really cool things about Studio One is that you can send it to a mastering or a stereo manipulation side of Studio One called Project. So what you do is wherever you set your start and your end markers, that's what it considers the song, and that's what we're going to do in this case. So I'm going to go, let's just imagine the song is mixed. Song, add to project, new project, Shawan Rice, FP1. That's the project that we made. And when I do this, you'll notice it's asking how do I want to save the project name. We'll leave it like that. And it saves it to a new folder or the other folder called projects. And now you'll notice it went back to this window and it's mastering. It's doing the rendering. We don't have a lot of plugins on here, so obviously it's going pretty fast. One, two. Just click this little doohickey to go between platforms. Um, I would then just go to song update mastering file, and it will automatically update the mastering file. So that's it for right now. Song information is where you, song setup is where you define 4824. You can also put your name in here and your audio I/O setup. Cool. Hello. Today's lesson is why you should never let a drummer have a vocal microphone because he's basically lying to you when he tells you that he sings. This show is a great example of that. This young man did indeed ask for a vocal microphone. And let's go look at it. Alright, first thing is we're going to look at the waveform. You'll notice he never utters a word. Now we're going to go in and we're just going to solo up that microphone. It's a pleasant sound. Almost works as a room reverb, but other than that, it's junk. Now, we're going to take that up and we're going to tell you why it destroys your snare and your hats and stuff too. What I've done is put it right here beside the hi-hat track so we can visually see it. If we blow these up on a downbeat of a snare, here is the hit of the snare. That's the hit. If we look at the snare bottom, we already see that the snare bottom mic is behind time-wise on the hit of the snare. So that's kind of a little out of phase. If we find a bigger hit, we can probably see one being directly out of phase. Boom, that is out of phase. Now, if we go to the hat, we see here's the hit, here's where it's getting it. Now let's look at the vocal mic. Now it's all the way back here. Let's put that vocal mic soloed with the hi-hat. Listen to the definition of the hi-hat disappear. Ugly. Now let's bring in the top. Listen to that definition. Now we'll kill the vocal mic. sucks. It's much better without that vocal microphone. Now it's bringing the snare bottom. You'll notice I've lifted the phase. Listen to what happens to the kick drum. The depth of the kick drum disappears. Let's take the hat of that so we just hear the snare. Just the top. Now I have no EQ, no compression on either the top or the bottom snare. Let's lift the phase. Listen to what happens with the kick drum. All these factors combined are why most people's snare sucks. And if your drummer asks for a vocal mic, ask him what he sings on. And maybe if he's lucky, unmute his microphone in that. All right, that's today's lesson. Okay, part 2 of tuning a snare and not making it suck. What I've done in this project is took the snare top and snare bottom and made a bus called snare so that we can listen to this. Alright, this is the snare with nothing on it. A snare bottom is generally out of phase 180 degrees with the top snare head because you're hitting down on the top and the bottom head is then going outward. It's exactly opposite. So let's lift the phase. And you'll notice we've gotten rid of some of the kick drum as well. Okay, so that helped. Now we're going to go in, and this is the EQ for the top snare, and I'm going to turn it on. I've high passed it, I've added a little meat on the bottom, and I've added a little attack, cut a little mid out. Now we're going to compress that. In compression, we want to compress after the transient as closely as possible to allow it to breathe. So what we're going to do here is I set my ratio at 4:1. I'll take my threshold up for the time being. For this example, let's just start at 12 o'clock. I've used the internal side chain. This is high passing what the compressor is hearing, so it's not affected by low frequencies. It's being affected by the transient, the power of the snare. I've turned my input gain up because this snare signal was kind of weak to begin with. Makeup is to make up what gets cut by the compression. So we'll take that to 0 for right now. And you'll notice there's an auto feature which basically makes up for what you can do with your ears. So here we go. I just have the top. Let's take that threshold to where we're seeing it engaging. Now let's take that snare real quick. Notice that the attack of the snare goes away, of the stick hit. Now let's push that back. Now we have that crack. Release is how long we want it in there. A quicker release is stankier. If you keep the release longer, you get a little more meat in the snare. Now our makeup, we're losing 3 to 5 dB of gain, so let's push that up 4.5. Alright, cool. Now bottom snare EQ, I've high passed it a little more. Put that in. Balance it for flavor. Cool. On the subgroup, let's put our compressor on. Same thing with this attack, behind the crack. We're just shaving the head off of it. I have a very big high ratio here. For a lesson, let's take it all the way. Now it's basically a limiter. My makeup gain is determinant on how much dB I'm losing here. Let's turn everything off. Before and after. Alrighty, I hope that helps. That is snare drums. Alright, let's get back to drum tuning. We're going to look at tuning toms and gates. So, the first thing we want to do here is find a section of the song where the guy's using his toms. So, I like this little fill he's doing. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is fix gains on there. The high tom is a little too quiet. That third tom's a little quiet. Alright, I picked tom 2 for us to focus on here to make things a little quicker. We're going to set a gate up. Gates are up to the user. Sometimes you want them, sometimes you don't. That's a whole huge debate, and I'm just going to show you how to do it. So I'm going to turn it on. My threshold, that's all the way open, no gating. You'll notice that's where it's hitting. So let's take that up. Now, this is to make it obvious. Alright, so now it's just triggering on the hit of the thing. So I want my attack real quick. I'm going to hold it as long as I want that note. I'm going to bring the threshold down to make it more human. Now I open that release a little bit. That's the tail of the hit. Alright, I like that. Now we're going to EQ it. What we look for first, let's flatten everything here, is bad resonant frequencies. And the resonant frequency happens very often with drums. I mean, poor guys have to tune and blah, blah, blah. It's an effect of the wood. Anyway, let's go find a bad. So what I'm going to do, this is we're going to make a real tight cue. Hear how that one lights up? So that 164, a little, let's cut that out. I like it. Now we can EQ for a little taste. Let's add a little stick hit up here. Cut out some of that mud. And there you go. We found a resonant frequency and we tuned it to taste. It's not uncommon to use two equalizers, one to tune for the cuts and one to tune it for how you like it to hear. In this case, the drum sounds pretty good, so we didn't need to do that. I haven't compressed it at all. That is done like anything else. But if we wanted to, let's do that. Add the compressor. Let's get it to cut the head off. We'll take it to like 4-to-1. Make a sharp knee. Let's filter out any of that low stuff. Take the attack back. Pick our makeup up. We got a little bit better defined drum. All right, that's tuning toms in a nutshell. All right, so this is a quick lesson in sidechain compression. One cool thing you can also do real quick in Studio One is make subgroups of subgroups. So I'm going to highlight the drums, the horns, and the bass and put them into a bus called music. On this, I am going to insert a compressor. I'm going to set the attack quick, release kind of there. I'm going to set the threshold. I'm just guessing these numbers right now. And then I'm going to click this side chain button right here on the compressor. Now, on Shawan's vocal channel, what I'm attempting to do is quiet everything behind the vocal. So what we are doing is side chaining compression off of the vocal. So I'm going to add a side chain send. And if you look way down here, you'll see music, insert one, compressor. So this is sending the impulse of her vocal to the compressor on the music channel. So here we go. I'm going to set the threshold all the way open so that it has no effect. And you'll hear the brass and stuff. Now, I'm going to set this ratio real high for the example. Now, watch. It's reducing the volume of this music channel. So, for shits and giggles, it kills those tracks. If I do it real quick. Now, if you find a fine point with that, it's a very delicate procedure, but it makes a big difference in big arrangements. It also works well for guitar leads. Anyway, that's side chaining, and it's real easy to do in Studio One. Howdy. In this video, we're going to talk about vocals real quick, and especially how it works with live stuff that we get. We're going to solo up the lead vocal channel, Shawan's vocal, and I've picked a section out of the tape here of her doing a verse. And I have the EQ engaged with no cuts, high pass on it, just so we can look at it. Keep us right to flee the scene. Bad luck won't stray for long. One of the first things we want to listen for is proximity effect, how close she gets to the microphone, and is she consistent in her delivery. Shawan is pretty good at this. She doesn't have a lot of it, but you can hear her move in and out, and that is where you'll hear some more low in the 200 zone, 2 to 500, increasing a hair. Indeed, refute your lessons, rebuke your knees, trouble follows. But you can't tell her nothing, no. All the love she gives is not the love she's shown. Don't you know the cypress can't grow in the oats? Let me hear you, Ricio. Okay, so that's pretty darn good, and it's a good place to start. One of the things that I've fallen in love with is that the EQ is now offering dynamic EQ. And if you look here, you'll see a little D by the each EQ zone, I will call it. And if you click up here, you see the dynamics setting. So we're going to play that back. And now to deal with that proximity effect without cutting the frequency in a standard equalizer way, we'll click the D on so it makes this band dynamic. We'll drop the range down.
Keep us right to flee the scene. Bad luck won't stray for long.
Now I'm going to drop it, let's say 4 or 5 dB. Let's try 6 dB.
But you can't tell her nothing, no.
A dynamic EQ cuts the equalizer relative to a threshold point. And when that threshold isn't covered or crossed, the EQ does nothing, allowing it to be more transparent.
All the love she gives is not the love she's shown. Don't you know the cypress can't grow in the oaks? Let me hear you, Ricio. Refute your lessons, rebuke your knees, trouble follows.
Now that's a little much.
But you can't tell her nothing, no. All the love she gives is not the love she's shown. Don't you know the...
So that dynamic EQ is awesome. It's also awesome for de-essing. De-essing is usually up here in the high range. We're going to go up here and pop it on here.
Tell her nothing, no. All the love she gives is not the love she's shown. Don't you know the cypress can't grow in the oaks?
Let's set mid-range.
Let me hear you, Ricio. Nothing, no. All the love she gives is not the love she's shown. Don't you know the cypress can't grow in the oaks? Let me hear you, Ricio.
So off.
But you can't tell her nothing, no.
On.
All the love she gives is not the love she's shown. Don't you know the cypress
We
can't
can
grow
adjust the
in
cue
the
of these
oaks?
cuts.
Let me hear you, Ricio. Trouble follows. But you can't tell her nothing, no. All the love she gives is not the love she's shown. Don't you know?
Very powerful tool, very transparent. Now we're going to do, as we were saying before with compression in the earlier lessons,
The cypress can't grow.
I'm going to set my threshold so it's trimming
Let me
the
hear you,
tops off.
Ricio.
Make that about 2.5. 2.5 is a real safe one for vocals. You can go harder if you have a big screamer. Again, let's so let's bring in the compressor. I have 2.5. I'm going to high pass what's hitting the compressor. Now, sometimes you want to cut the attack real close because the person's very popping on the microphone. Sometimes you want to open it up a little more. Let's listen.
Rebuke your knees, trouble follows. But you can't tell her nothing, no.
We will definitely affect enunciation if you make the attack slow, or very quick. It's going to take the consonants that we rely on to understand lyrics.
All the love she gives is not the love she's shown. Don't you know the cypress can't grow in the oaks?
So we got to be real careful with that, and that is what makes a good mix. Take your time with that when you're listening, especially to what is in the front of a mix, a lead vocal, for example, or a guitar lead or a brass lead. That attack is very important. We'll make up what we are cutting down.
Let me hear. But you can't tell her nothing, no. All the love she gives is not the love she's
That's the lesson.